my name is Vincent Schwenk, and in this video I want to teach you something about MIXAMO and softbodies. The dancing guys has been out there a lot, but perhaps this approach of the tutorial will give you some new ideas how to achieve another look. And this video was actually from my Patreon database. I recorded this back in 2021, but I thought it would be time to upload it on YouTube so everyone can watch it for free. So I hope you're having fun and see you around. Thanks, bye bye. So we are now in C4D, and the first thing I want to do is to build a character. And I'm really not a character guy, so my character modeling skills are really poor and bad. But I started to create this guy. And one thing is really important, which I learned in the process, which I didn't do in the first place. You should really work in a T-pose. So the arms should be straight and the legs should be straight. And then the rig from MIXAMO works way better. But let's go, as usual, step by step. A little bit I want to say about this character as well is that I try to model it not like in a symmetry way. So we have some irregularities. So for example, the right arm is a bit, had a sharper edge, and the left arm is a bit different. But let's see what we can also do here. Let's move some of the spheres around. And I don't know, just to get a bit of a random feeling for the sky, and this one should be scaled up. The next thing, well, I can see that's one thing. I have this sphere and I put in a taper, so my character has a broad shoulder and a smaller this area. Then the next thing what we do is we need to mesh everything, and like the good thing we have is the volume build and volume measure. It's really handy to use, so we'll select everything what we did before and just put it into the builder and into the measure, like a process we already did 100,000 times. So super easy and simple. We need to reduce the voxel size, and I'm quickly pressing NB on my keyboard to see my voxels, and the character is a little bit bigger, but it's not original size. Usually I really like to work in a smaller scale or in a real world scale, and my objects are often very small. So, but to give you an example of that, there is a character which I really don't use that often. Wasn't he? Figure here, that's the guy. This guy is 1.80 m, and you can see our character is smaller. Just to give you an idea for the scaling, but I think this is nice for now. Cool, then for the voxel size, I think we can even go a bit smaller. So let's go 0.7 to have a bit more voxels. Then obviously what we want is smoothing. So I will apply some smoothing to that, and I'll go back to NA to see how it looks, and I will also hide my taper here. I think this is a nice starting point, but I changed a little something into my volume builder. Well, let's first of all deactivate everything and select this guy. So yes, number 5. The top one, and this is this guy, and in my design I subtracted this one and I have a hole in here, and I think that's quite nice to have a hole into the center so we can put something through the guy, some, I don't know, spheres or whatever you want. And I'll put it also back into the center a little bit up. About the smoothing, perhaps we'll go a little bit less, not with the Gaussian, perhaps with the mean one, and I think that's the way to go. Just one quick note, as you can see I have many segments in my spheres, so they are clean and smooth. Then what I obviously always like to do is select everything, and I'm putting that into an original folder, and I'm hiding this one because yeah, you will definitely sometimes need or have the option to go back and work on your procedural model, but in this case we don't need that now. That's the first step, and again the second step using the Quadremesher, again like in so many tutorials, but I really think this plugin is very much amazing. And you have to think about, we want to simulate later soft bodies, so don't go overboard with your values here, and I will try like 2300 and I will see what the plugin will give me with my volume measure. And this looks good, but this is definitely like the maximum I would go. I usually would go a little bit less because calculation times is actually really slow in cinema and it can take a while. And also for my design, it calculated like 20 minutes. And obviously the first try it didn't work out, so I had to calculate it over and over many times. And yeah, so be careful with your polygons. This is definitely maximum, but I think I like it, and I think it's nicer to define this as the front. So this blobby arm is going to be his right arm. Cool, that's good. So therefore, this volume measure, I put it back into original folder, and the retopologized one, it's time to rename this guy. And obviously rename is not what I want to type. I want to type blobby blob is a nice name for this guy. The next thing, which is like a super important step, is the UV. And it's very important to do the UVs in the beginning, because I don't know, if you continue your journey and everything is already deformed and soft-bodied and you have baked the lambics, and then it can be a bit tedious to get to your UVs. So therefore, let's directly start in there and hop in there. Because of the speed, I'll just use Rizom here because it's a bit faster and I like the UV layout and everything, and I'll try to explain everything to you. But basically, you just have to understand where to place your cuts, and that can be exactly the same in cinema. So learn where cuts are useful. And actually, I'm also really learning a lot by doing this exercise again and again, where could be good cuts. Well, first of all, I kind of think I know that characters have a cut in their leg. So I'm selecting, double clicking here, and it's automatically creating a loop selection. And also on the right side, or let's see if we cut here. Yeah, C for cutting. Then we need to be able to unwrap this guy, and the seam in the middle of his leg is probably pretty good because it's not that visible. So we won't see the texture flowing around in the inside there. Let's select on the right side, and I don't want to create the whole cut from one end to another. I only need to cut till this area perhaps, and I don't need this selection. And let's press C also, and let's unwrap this by pressing U. And I will optimize these two guys by pressing O and P for pack, and then I'm pressing F to center the frame. And I can see what I did there. So this leg looks already quite nice, but perhaps we have a little bit too much distortion on this guy. Perhaps we can continue the cut a little bit to the side, and yep, it's a bit better. And I'm pressing O many times here to optimize this thing, and it's trying to smooth out everything, and I think that's all right. Also, I would rather have less cuts and have a little bit of deformation than to have more cuts and have a clean undeformed mesh, because I want to animate stuff over his body, or I don't know yet what I will do, but mostly with soft bodies it's nice to have fewer cuts. Cool, then let's continue the process with the arms, and I will also make cuts here. Yep, cut this guy here. With the arms we need to do the same. So I will select a loop in the bottom so we don't see the cut too much, and I'm pressing C. Here's the guy C. Unwrap, optimize, and pack. Nice, that's the second arm, and now only the third arm is missing. And wait, what did we say? We said it looks nicer if this is his right hand and this is the front. So we could also actually make the cut from the arm a little bit more to the back. We are sure we don't see the cut here, and let's see where we can go. Yep, like that. C, U, O, P. Cool, we have 4 pieces now which are already unwrapped. And I think we can cut off the head, or do we have to? No, let's leave the head on for now. But yep, front. There's the front, guys, so we need to cut on the back. Definitely we need a cut here. We have a lot of distortion going on there. Let's press unwrap, optimize, and pack. And you can see the rest of the body is really nothing. Okay, let's separate the inside, this whole area, from the rest of the UV mesh.
So I'm cutting this out, and again, CUOP. And also now we need to connect the line cut optimize pack. And the inside is now perfectly cut out, and we see there is nearly no distortion, and I think the line on the top of this character won't be visible. That's great. Let's continue and think about what could be a good cut. Perhaps to open this guy from this side and connect it to the arm. So we can cut here, and that already helped a lot. So everything is going in place now, but obviously we still have way too much distortion. And let's try to do actually the same on the other arm. Create a cut in here and optimize and pack. And yeah, it's getting better. I also think there are like standard procedural how to perfectly unwrap a character, but again, I'm not really much a character designer, so perhaps I will invite someone for that. But let's see. Another cut, which helps a lot. So you can see now the back is really going nicely, and we won't see the back anyway, so the cuts here are not that important, but the front is still a little bit too distorted, and the head is definitely way too distorted. And therefore, we could either try to cut off the head or let's see what happens if we connect the head to the rest. And yeah, I think that helped already quite nice. Let's make one more cut here and unwrap, optimize, pack. And let's have a look from our front view. And I think the amount of distortion is all right. Perhaps one last cut to help the distortion. But I wouldn't know how or where. So yeah, I think this is good for now. A bit of distortion, but it's all right, I guess. I hope. Or should we cut off this part as well? Let's see what happens if we make another cut. Here. And going around this blob, and I will try to go down there. And the cool thing is you can preview your cut if I press shift. And let's cut off this part. Is it worth it? Did it help a lot with distortion? The question is also, will this cut be much visible? I think it won't be visible a lot, because also this arm is going to move, and I think that's right. So we are saving Rizom now, and because I have the bridge, it will automatically close, and I will automatically get my UVs onto this guy, which is super nice and saves a lot of time. Nicey, 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 we have our character. And yeah, I am happy. It's unwrapped, it has a nice topology. Then comes the next step, the probably most interesting step in this whole tutorial, the MIXAMO part. And as I said in the teaser, my goal was to create something interesting with this mix, because 1,000 people used it before, like this dancing characters, and made some boring dance moves, and everyone loved it, but I always found it boring. But let's see what we can do. Therefore, I will go to the website MIXAMO, and for everyone who is a client of Adobe, probably every one of you has an Adobe account. You just have to sign in your Adobe account, and then you have access to the whole MIXAMO library, which is really nice. And I think especially if you're a character designer, this helps a lot. And you can see still my previous test from my guy is still here. But let's continue the journey for that. And I will quickly go back in cinema, copy my guy, and go into a new scene and just delete everything. I don't need a preset scene, I only need my guy. And on top of that, I just need to export this guy, and the best format is FBX. So we go into FBX and let's call this blobby guy, blobby blob guy, blobby blob, nicey nice, FBX, save, done, check, close cinema, go back to MIXAMO, and we have to click on the right side and upload a character. And then you just have to go into the folder, and that's for me, Patreon, and then drag the FBX file in here, my blobby blob, and MIXAMO. The file is quite small, so it uploads quickly. MIXAMO's also quickly, and let's try to help the system to get this thing rigged. So first of all, we need to place the chin, and we don't want to use symmetry because our guy is not really symmetrical. So that's the chin. This is the wrist. Then the elbow could be this blob. Elbow could be somewhere in there. The knees are these blobs. And the groin is the middle in here. You can see that in the preview. Perhaps it can go a bit more up. And we don't want fingers. We want the most simple rig, only 25. And that's that. Let's continue and wait, and I'll make a quick pause here. The auto rigging is finished, and this is our character, and overall it worked quite good. We have some problems with the hole in the middle, but we can fix it later in the rig. So nice, finish this up. And now, as I said, we want some dance moves. The crappier, the better. Yeah. I would say we'll go with this one. And later in the process, you see not much of that will be seen or will stay like that. But let's try to fix the everything. So we have 800 frames now. That's too much. I would say, yeah, 500 is enough. We can trim it later on and see which part of the dance we would like. So I'm trimming a little bit in here. And the arm space, I would make it a bit more so there's less intersection going down there. And also I want to make a little bit of an overdrive so the motion is a bit exaggerated. And yeah, that's nice. Let's download the guy. I will use the keyframe reduction uniform. I need the skin. We need 30 fps format, FBX, nice. And let's download this guy. So I have my guy now into Cinema, and let's check. Yep, I think this is working quite nicely. And before we copy this guy into our working scene, I directly want to adjust some things in here. So we need to go into the rig, and something is wrong in this area. So we need to find our spine and lift that a little bit up. And that starts to help. And then the hips. I think we have to adjust the hips a bit, or perhaps also adjusting this hips a little bit, yeah. And let's see, my left leg can go a little bit more to the right, and my right leg can go a little bit more to the left. Let's press play and see what we got there. It feels a little bit like he's wearing a baggy. But yeah, never mind, soft bodies will change everything anyway. But there's one thing what we have to keep in mind. Soft body hates intersection of polygons. If we would put that into a soft body simulation, the thing would explode and would be fucked up. So that doesn't work. It's very important that we have a keyframe on the first frame where we don't have any intersections. So we need to animate the arm up ourselves and just make. So, or we could look if we have a frame where we don't have any intersection. We could actually start here at frame 48. There's no intersection, That's nice. Let's do that. And I'm scaling a little bit here into my timeline 48, did I say? Yes. And let's delete the previous frames and select them all and move them back to 0 nicely. And also we don't need 500 frames. Let's say 300 is definitely more than enough. That's looking good. Nice. Then I want to group everything into a null. And let's call it Dancy and copy the Dancy guy back into our working scene because we did something and it's definitely time to save. So saving that, and the blobby blob guy can go into the original, which we are hiding, and we have the dance guy and our scene here. We'll adjust that to 300 frames. And also the guy is in 30 FPS, but my working scene is 20 frames per 25 FPS. And that's because I'm saving a little bit of render time and no one really sees the difference between 25 and 30. So at least that's what I think. Looks nice. Cool. Then one thing which is new in R23 and which really helped me a lot here is the thing which is called delta mush. And we put the delta mush into the null for our blob blob guy, and it's a little bit like a smoothing, but in intelligent smoothing, and it helps a lot with rigged characters, but you can probably use it in any case. But now our geometry looks really nice. You can see I'm turning it on, off and on, and it really helps to clean out everything in here. We go to frame 0 and press initialize, and now this whole thing is delta mushed. Cool. Let's press save because we will try soft bodies. And there was one thing in my tests, I had to bake the object, but I kind of forgot why I had to do it. Let's first try not to bake it and see what happens if we run into some errors. And yeah, I will quickly apply a soft body onto my blobby blob guy, and we will go into details about the values, which we'll leave everything like it is now. And I only want to increase the pressure to like 5, and again save before something happens to just see if the simulation is running okay-ish. And we have 2.8 frames per second FPS, which is still okay. So it's not tremendously slow. It's slow, but still manageable. And nothing is exploding, and everything looks nice and right. And I really think this character is pretty nice. It's a bit of a pervert guy, what we did here. Yeah, but yeah, love this guy, is nice. Then what we need to do is to connect the simulation to the rig, and we can do that by 2 forces. The first force is the follow position and the follow rotation. And for example, if we make this mesh quite stiff, it tries to follow the position of the rig. You can see now the arms are moving down and the arms are moving up and to the front. That is quite nice. And now the interesting part is trying to find like a good balance between jiggly, wobbly motion and the value for the stiffness. So overall, I like when this character is quite soft and it's really not following the dance moves too much. I want it more to be guided by it. So also the position and rotation can be a little bit less. And then I want to change some values. And overall, while I test what is really nice, if we increase the shears, the strength of deflections, and the springs will try to maintain some shape. But in contrast, we need to reduce the flexion and also reduce the dampening here. So in this area, we want a low value. In this area, we want a high value. And also, I think the structural value can go down by 50%. So the object itself can transform a little bit more and his shape will be deformed. And what I mean with these values, you can see here, that's quite interesting. I liked the fold of the inner thing here. It kind of looks like an asshole now. Or a belly nut, which would be nicer. Yeah, but these values are super nice. And you can see the motion is quite nice, and he's actually still quite much following the strength from the rig. Let's try to even reduce the stiffness a little bit. I'll go to 0.2, which is really low, and perhaps we have a little bit more of pressure. I always like the look of this pressure load guys. Before we continue, I want to create a floor, and again, floor is super good because nothing can collide through the floor, and then the floor I want a collider body. And let's check if we don't have any intersection. Nice, cool. And in my scene, I had some gravity in there as well, and of course not that strong. I think it was something like 60 or 70. So this guy is slowly moving to the ground, but not followed by the usual gravity. And again, if you press Command D and go into your settings, my settings, dynamic settings here, they don't have gravity in here, just to keep that in mind. And let's press play. And you can see the character is moving a little bit to the ground, and we have some contact with the floor, which is also nice. Yep, that's nice. We have 1.5 frames. That's not really nice, and my CPU, as I explained, is new and is really powerful, but it's super slow. Well, I hope the scene will be baked later on, because we want to add more and more stuff in the design tier later. But for now, I will go only 100 frames, and I'll go back to frame 0, and I will bake this guy to be able to see better what I did there, and I'll make a quick break. So my baking for the 100 frames is done, and let's press play. And you can see here we have got 60 frames, which is super quick, and we definitely will see this guy in real time. And I really love what we did there, and I think it's even more funny than the one I did. Yeah, man, that's great. I think it's really great, but let's try to enhance the look a little bit more. And you can see frame 0 bug. I don't know what this is with cinema. Well, whatever. I hope nothing will break if we clear the cache now. Yeah, no, yeah, he's back. Back on shape. Nice. I think he can even be more wiggly. You can reduce the dampening. So let's try a structural of 35 and drop the dampening in these two springs a bit, so everything moves a bit quicker. There's less energy drained out of the system, so more wiggly motion and perhaps more pressure, and also will put out I will reduce the dampening so we have more energy in there. And let's perhaps even try to increase the strength of the shear and decrease the flexion. Yeah, let's see. I played around a bit with the values, and overall quick save. Also with the value of the structural, you have to be careful in combination with the pressure. That can quickly explode, and then everything is just crap. But I think that is quite nice. And let's see, the guy is still hovering, so we should also increase the strength of the gravity. We can also move our guy a little bit closer to the ground, so it's barely touching. Nice. Safe is safe. And in my test I've seen we can even try to have more wiggly motion. So 25 to 300. So only one string is strong, all the others are super jiggly. And for example, the head is really moving nicely. Well, on the back there's a lot of pressure. And I think that's cool. And for this test I'll go even a bit more, 125 frames, so we see a bit more of the dancing. I will reduce the follow position rotation, so again there's more randomness in there. And let's bake everything, and I'll make a quick cut again. Yeah, this is really going nicely, even cooler than I thought. Also, I like that he's lying on the ground. That's definitely kind of funny. Composition wise, I think it's a bit of a problem that he will go on the ground, so I have here a preset camera. If we even shoot in a very low angle, you can see most of the frame will be empty. Or we could animate the camera up. That could be also something. That's really kind of interesting. So it's getting somewhere. But let's clear the cache again. And I want to try to not get him on the ground. So we will reduce again the gravity. And for the follow position and follow rotation, I will slightly increase it. So this character tries to stay a bit more paired to the rig. Nice. So super happy with this guy. Then let's quickly continue. And I thought it would be really nice to add this rope through the skies. And we also actually did that quite a lot. So I'm going back into my R&D scene where I tried out and tested everything. And you can see this time I didn't use the thin strings. This time I used more like ropes, but I also didn't use whole rope. So these tubes can deform, and the tubes are actually just toruses, and we will do the same. And by the way, if I have the scene open now, I kind of think I didn't show you the file. So, well, my character is a bit different in here, also funny motion, but what we are doing right now is definitely nicer. And yeah, I added some more details, but we will talk about that later. Let's first concentrate onto the toruses. So back into our main working scene, and let's adjust the torus. Let's see, we need it a bit bigger and a smaller radius. And again, very important for the softbody simulation is that we don't have any intersection at frame 0. Otherwise, things will explode, as you probably know. So let's see if we have that correct. And that looks nice. And I will try to pack it directly closer to the border because I want to stack a few more of these guys moving into the wrong axis. Also, let's put that into a null and call this ropes. And in the overall effect, I want to have a little bit of turbulence, so everything gets even more jiggly deformation. And the turbulence, I only want very small, but I want also a small scale, so more, let's say 40% and 3 centimeter in strength. And let's go to the tube and apply just a basic simulation softbody tag, simulation softbody. And let me quickly go back into my original R&D scene and let's see what I changed here. And I animated the rest length for only for one guy. Well, actually, we can copy this guy, so it's a bit quicker. What we're doing there, go into this guy. And this torus, we're using 44, 50, 50, and 5 pressure. So mostly it's the preset, but with a little bit of pressure. Cool. Then we can directly delete this guy again. Also, we don't need the texture in here for this part. Let's have a look at our polygons. I think this is not really perfect now. We're having too many pipe segments, but too few ring segments. So again, very important rule about softbodies, try to always have even-sized polygons. Or is this already too high in the resolution? Because the scene is quite slow already, but let's press save. And we want to shrink this guy a little bit. And one important thing which I figured out, like softbodies and well, you have to transform your objects, like press C, it's more stable, and especially if you want to bake alembics, it didn't work with these files, or something didn't work. I kind of forgot what, but I know that you have to convert these toruses. So, but first of all, I'll copy this guy, and I will press C on the previous one, and now we can continue adding new ones, and this one should be a bit bigger. And quickly press play to just see the first few frames if we have some errors. Yeah, and it's all working and running. Going back to frame 0 and adding a few more toruses. And I guess I will speed up from here because this is just a repetitive work. You can do that your own. Just be careful to have no intersections. Nice. So I'm finished here. Let's proceed to convert all this guy, and I want a bit of a variation for the size. So this guy should shrink down to 90. This is 80. This guy should shrink down to 70 and this guy should grow to 120. So all of them are behaving a little bit different and we have a nice variation in there. Press play and let's see. Yeah, it works, but you can see we are really getting slow. We are at down to 0.4 frames per second. Because this kind of intersection cinema doesn't really like. But I hope, or I think it could be worth it. So the guy will struggle with these ropes around him. And I think there's a lot of room for interpretation. What these tubes, where they're going, into the stomach or what? Is this guy fat or what? Or should they go food inside or outside? We don't know. Could be a lot. Well, I think this really goes nicely and yeah, these moments here are also really nice. The intersection there. Cool. Then I will calculate a lot of frames and no, I won't calculate this much frames for now because we need to talk about the design, like how can be the set design, how many props do we need to have a interesting composition. So thank you very much and see you there. Bye bye.